Hello, I'm Sophie welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a video I have done a couple times by now. It's just two. I could only find two on my channel. When I was checking to see how many times I've done this video, I realized the last time I did one was in 2022. So this is a long time coming. It is, as you probably can tell by the title, all of my current writing projects. If you're ever confused about what I'm talking about when I say Project What or Project Glass or Project Jade, here is the definitive answer of what each of these projects are. So, at the moment, I have about 12 working projects. This means projects that I actively am trying to either work on as we speak or are on the list to be worked on. If you watched those older videos of mine where I've talked about all of my projects, period, I have done lists of literally every project I've ever thought of and given a name. That's a way bigger list, of course, but I do just want to do one that is all my current working projects because I feel like that's a little more helpful both for you guys because I'm actually going to be talking about these projects and for me because it sort of streamlines what I can work on. I also have some props, love props, to sort of show what stage certain projects are in, but those will come up as we talk about them. First of all, we got to start with the it girl of the channel, and that is Project What. This is also called Violet. The actual title of the book is Violet. First prop, this is the most recent version I have of it. It is draft 3, and I am currently in the middle of working on draft 4. This is both on my laptop in Papyrus Author, and also I have been handwriting lately. A very small portion of this notebook has been filled with this project, but I'm also handwriting when I feel stuck, just because handwriting really helps me get unstuck. But I'm about halfway through that draft. I'm like right at the midpoint right now, so we're halfway through draft 4 at the moment. But for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna try and keep this short because I don't want this video to get like an hour long. But Project What is a story that takes place in a world about a century, a little over a century after World War III breaks out. It is a world in which most of the planet has been destroyed by nuclear war, and the only place where a large grouping of survivors, the majority of survivors of the war, have collected is on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that has been built by this billionaire guy that stayed behind on Earth. I say stay behind because there's an alternate future. We'll talk about that in a moment, but the story takes place on this island. The island is a century old by the time we see it, so it's very well established. The people that we see and that we follow in this world have all grown up on this island. They have never been off of this island. This is all they know. And the main thing that we learn about our three main characters, there are three, is that they have all been accepted into this very prestigious school on the island that is basically one of the only places, if not the only place on the island you can go to actually like make change on the island and do good. Most people just go like to like a trade school kind of thing, or they just learn from their parents and they end up following the same sort of career path as them. It is at this school. It's called Wharton Academy. It is at this school people can learn things that their parents or the people around them cannot, and they can actually like climb the ranks of the island into a team that can actually do change. So all three of them are very excited for this. They have different reasons for being there. They have different reasons why they've worked so hard to get into this school, but they're all there. They're all first years. They all end up meeting one way or another. Two of them are roommates. One of them, he's just there for vibes, but they end up meeting and they end up becoming a sort of, you know, just like a little friend group, even though two of the characters don't really like each other, but they all hang out nonetheless. But just as they're starting to get along, as they're starting to get their footing at this school, it all falls apart. I won't say how it falls apart, but the rug is yanked out from under them so hard, and they're left with just next to nothing, with no idea what to do. Well, my main character, which I will explain, there's three main characters, but one of them is the main character. She discovers that what has affected them, what has pulled the rug, so to speak, has been a group, a sort of religious extremist group that everyone sort of knows about. It's sort of on the fringe of everyone's knowledge, but it hasn't really been at the center of anyone's minds because they're supposed to be gone. 50 years ago, they were supposed to have been disbanded by the president. That was his big thing. That was the reason people even liked him a little bit, because people don't really like him, was for getting rid of this group that had been very destructive on the island 50 years ago. And now she's learning that they're back, question mark, and they're back to their ways, but she knows next to nothing about them besides that. Besides the fact that they are violent, that they should be gone, and they should have been gone for 50 years, and now, for some reason, they're just back on the scene. So this book really is all about, one, trying to figure out what these people are all about, what this group is all about, their history, where they came from, where they went, if they went anywhere at all, and what they're up to next, and then also stopping them from doing whatever's next. So that's Project What? I told myself this isn't going to be a long video, and I've already been talking for 10 minutes. That's fine. Project What is the first book in a trilogy where each book focuses on one of the main characters more than the other two. So that's what I mean by main character. In Project What, it is one girl. She is the main character. In the second book, it is my male main character, who is the main character. And then in the third book, it is my second female main character. That is the main character. How many times can I say main and character? Jeez. But that is the idea. So the sequel to Project What, book 2, is called Project Moss. And I don't have those notebooks. I don't know where they are. I hand wrote the zero draft for Project Moss. So it's sitting in my desk somewhere, but it is currently sitting at a zero draft. I have yet to be able to work on the next draft for it, though I'm hoping to here soon. Project Moss is a little more enclosed. We have learned quite a bit about this enemy group, this evil extremist group. We know quite a bit. Now, we are dealing with everything that they did in the first book, as well as the immediate consequences of the climax of the first book. I don't want to say much because it builds off of the first book, and if you don't know about the first book, then the second book, it's going to be all spoilers. But the island is not in good shape. The island's not doing too hot, physically. So that's what's happening there. But my main character, his idea is more of an emotional one. It's more of a relationship-driven arc, especially towards the beginning. He discovers something about someone he really loved in the first book. He discovers something at the end of the first book that throws him for a loop, throws him for a massive loop, and he cannot escape that realization, and he cannot escape how he feels about that. So he manages to get off island. Now this is crazy, because the rest of the world is still extremely radioactive. Radioactivity takes a long time to break down, and the idea was that if we get all these people on an island, we're at least a little bit further from all that damage. Obviously you can't escape it, but the rest of the world is a wasteland where very few people live. But there are teams on the island that go off island in order to do research trips and whatnot. He ends up managing to join one of those just to escape his feelings. And while he is out on one of these research trips, helping, doing his best, just trying to keep his position so they don't leave him there, he discovers the properties that plants have taken on in this extra hostile radioactive world, where plants not only have to fight against predators, but they also have to fight against their own DNA mutating within them, but also the mutations of the animals that eat them. Everything is evolving on such a faster scale than it was before, so things have taken on some pretty extreme adaptations. He begins to study these plants, and he begins to cultivate them. He brings them back to the island. He makes a little greenhouse sort of thing, and he starts trying to see what these plants can do, if they can actually be helpful to the island, or if they are all still harmful. Things happen. Things happen in the book that I can't really say because so much of it is based on context from book 1. So I guess I'll stop there, but that one has a zero draft that is complete. Hopefully I can start writing that again soon, because that is so fun to write. That book was so fun to write when I wrote it the first time, and I really want to capture that energy again. Instead of 3 characters that we see the perspective of, we actually end up seeing 5 in this book. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to work on Project Moss again, but I digress. Next is the 3rd and final book in the Project What trilogy. It's 3 books trilogy, and that is Project Rust. I know the least amount about this project because I really don't have a solid concept of what's going to happen in this book. I know a few things. First is my main character trying to find a spaceship, what she believes is a spaceship that has gone unfinished on Earth, that was supposed to be an escape route for people during the war. Once again, we'll get into that in more depth later, but in book 2, she discovers that there were these advertisements for a spaceship, a space station that was supposed to launch during that war in order to get people off the planet and like in a safer position. She's never heard of this before. No one on the island has ever mentioned it anywhere, apparently, besides in like conspiracy theories or rumors and whatnot. And she begins to research and explore and try and find where this spaceship or space station could still be on Earth. Because if they can find it and they can finish it, maybe they can all get off of the Earth and, you know, not risk dying so soon. That's the main thing I know about that 3rd book. Some other stuff will have to happen, of course, but I really want to solidify Project Moss and what's happening in that book before I start book 3, because I really need to know the aftermath of whatever happens in Project Moss in order to set up the conflict for Project Rust. Yeah, but that storyline where the main character is trying to find a space station that she thinks is still on Earth is definitely going to be in there. But now, let's talk about the 2nd trilogy that I have, my 2nd and final trilogy that I have at the moment. This one is about that spaceship from Project Rust, which is fun, which is exciting. They only very technically exist in the same universe. There's no actual crossover, but I thought it would be interesting. I thought it would be fun. This is Project Star. This is the current state of Project Star. Project Star is 3 books. All 3 books are in here. These little tabs, that's all 3 books. If you're unaware, I wrote all 3 books, 0 drafts, over the course of 5 months. I tried to write a book a month over summer. That didn't end up happening. I ended up taking 5 months instead of 3, but I have the entire trilogy written right here in 0 draft form, because my hope with this project is to work on all 3 books, like not simultaneously, but one after another, without any breaks, so I can build up the entire trilogy at the same time and not do what I did with Project What, which was get the 1st book up to draft 4 before I even like got the 2nd book up to the 1st draft. So that's what's happening here. This is all 3 books. I love it. I have yet to work on this since last summer. Yeah, I finished the last book on September 16th of 2024, so it's almost exactly a year since I finished the trilogy. This will definitely have to be another summer project, just given the nature of how I want to write it, so it's gonna have to be next summer. But Project Star is wild. Just wild. We're gonna give out the concept for book 1, and you're just gonna have to take that as the concept for the entire trilogy, because 1, spoilers, and 2, I don't know how much of what's happening in the 2nd and 3rd book is going to stay, or that I'm gonna keep. Like, I don't know the ratio of what's gonna stay versus what's gonna get trashed in the series, so I don't want to say anything here, and then I go and revise in a year, and I'm like, oh wait, I need to scrap all of this. Project Star, for the moment, is about a space station that left Earth by the time we're in the book a little over 1,000 years ago. This, coincidentally, is the space station that my main character is looking for in the 3rd book of Project What. By now, it is thriving. It's great. The people on this ship are doing just fine. Like, it's a stable colony, but there are 2 problems. 1, humans are trying to look for a planet. They have been on this space station ever since they left Earth. They have not been able to find an Earth-like planet that they can inhabit. We'll get into why in a moment, but the 2nd problem is that the star that they are orbiting has become unstable. It is reaching the end of its life, so it's starting to eject a lot more matter from its surface, and that's not good to fly through. So the immediate issue in Project Star is to find a new star for the station to orbit around. Hence the name Project Star. Adding on to this problem, adding on to both problems actually, is the fact that the space station has stumbled in its 1,000-year lifespan into a pocket of the Milky Way galaxy that is very highly populated with other intelligent life. In almost every star system around them, there is a planet that is full of not just life, like microbial life, or like very basic multicellular life or something. This is full communities. This is intelligent life. So, one, any habitable planet for humans, or, you know, even closely habitable for humans, is probably already inhabited. There's probably already a species that dominates that planet, so they can't really just crash, you know? And second, piggybacking off of that, most stars are, in a sense, owned by the species that inhabits that solar system. There's a whole thing about how the aliens in this world are like a leg up intelligence-wise from humans, and most of the other species kind of look down at humans, and they tend to use their star as a power source, as like a commodity. So looking for a place to orbit is, once again, kind of encroaching on territory. So they have to do a lot of bargaining in order to find another star that, you know, won't kill them with a mass ejecta of stellar matter. Well, they find a species, one of the most powerful species in this part of the galaxy, by the way. They are one of the most intelligent, if not the most intelligent species that is still around. They accept the humans' sort of plea to let them orbit around their system star. My main character, my female main character, there's two main characters. There's a female main character and a male main character. My female main character, as the captain's daughter of the space station, is tasked with going to this species planet in order to do some diplomacy. Get on their side, make sure that they don't just like kill the entire space station the moment they're in range. Well, she learns that these aliens, they're not really aliens. The humans are the aliens in this case, but you get what I mean. These aliens are only willing to let the humans orbit their star if they can completely search through all of their technology, all of humanity's technology, which strikes her as weird, first of all, because according to this species, humans are a lesser intelligence. So why on earth would they want to look through their stuff specifically? But also, this sounds like an attempt to colonize the humans. Humans are very, you know, aware of colonization. They know it sucks, and they don't want that. And they've seen what has happened to other species that have been put under the control of this species that's trying to communicate with them. So my main character is like, no, we're not doing that. She ends up upsetting the rulers of this species, and she and the male main character, yes, he's there as well, they end up on the run through the galaxy. It's great. I love it. My male main character has a whole thing about his father and trying to find his father. That's a whole thing. I will not divulge it here, but that is essentially what happens in Project Star. I miss this project. I literally, as I was flipping through the binder, I was like, oh my god, I want to write this so bad. But this has to be a summer project, or it has to be something that I do when I like have very few responsibilities otherwise, because it is very high demand, like mentally. But oh my god, I miss these two characters so much. Oh, I actually just need to put this down because I will convince myself to start writing Project Star, and that's a bad idea. This is one of the projects I've had since 2020, maybe 2021. Project What I've had since 2019. I feel like I should have said that earlier. Project What has been around since 2019. Project Star has been around since, I think, late 2020, if not early 2021. This next one has been around since 2020 as well. This came about from an English class that I was taking, like, in quarantine. Well, it was my English class from high school that I was taking during quarantine, and we had this, like, prompt assignment where I came up with these creatures that I thought were really interesting, and I was like, ooh, I should turn this into a story. And that is where I got Project Glass. This is the second draft of Project Glass, printed out. halfway revised. This is a standalone novel. Most of the rest of the projects on this list are standalones, except for one that is a duology. But Project Glass is a standalone. It's always been a standalone. There's no other way it could be. This is about two sisters. There's one sister, the other sister, nice, that live in a town that has been isolated from the rest of the world. Not only physically, because they do live in the middle of a forest, basically, but also by a virus that has taken over this town that turns people into monsters. I'll put a photo here of what they turn into. Cute. So these two sisters have been stuck in this town for the past 2 years. By the time we get to the book, this virus has been ravaging this town for 2 years. The biggest difference between these two sisters is how they approach their situation, what's going on. The older sister, she was not born in this town. She was born in the city just outside of the town, like just off the freeway. And she spent the first 8 to 10 years of her life going back to the city. By the time she was 2, they lived in the town. Her father, they are half-sisters. They're not full sisters, but it's too convoluted to say half-sisters every time you're writing something, so they're sisters. And they don't see themselves as like half-sisters or whatever. They are one unit. They're the girls. But her father lives in the city, so for the longest time, her mother would take her into the city to see her father. She associates herself with the city more than she does with the town they're currently in. She sees the city as a chance at something more, at a chance to actually live her life the way she wants to, and the town as a way to die quickly and brutally and disgustingly. So she wants, more than anything, to get out of this town. She wants nothing to do with it anymore, ever. And then her younger sister, she was born in this town. Their mother, they share the mother, met the younger sister's father on a job in this town when they end up settling down. So the younger sister has never left this town, has really no reason to, and really sees herself as a part of this town. Like, we are one. She also, as someone who is like obsessively creative, she draws, she paints, she does photography. Like, if it can preserve a moment, she does it. And she does so to preserve her own memories of the people that they have lost. Because of that, she now sees it as her responsibility to preserve these people in the real light that she knew them in, not as these monsters, but as human beings that deserve love. So she sees herself as the curator of this town's museum, sees it as her responsibility to represent that town and to stick with it and to stay where she is. Very two different perspectives. The older sister wants out more than anything. The younger sister could not feel like herself if she wasn't in this town. Both of them are without their parents now. A little over a year before the book starts, their parents are both infected by the virus, and they end up turning into them, leaving them orphaned and to sustain themselves in the house they grew up in. Things happen. I really can't say much without it being spoilers, but it is it's almost, every time I explain it, I call it like anti-horror, because there is horror elements. There is this gangly creature that's constantly prowling around the town and that they need to avoid or risk turning into one. But it is set in a town that is trying so hard to pretend that they don't exist. They go through their everyday life like nothing's amiss, and they're just trying to survive until a cure can be found or creatures can be eradicated, but a lot of them don't want to leave. Just like the younger sister, their identities are synonymous with this place, and like this is their home. They don't want to leave their home. So in the meantime, they are just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Like, as long as you take the right precautions, you're safe. Sort of anti-horror, anti-thriller, small town vibes, sisterly bonds, drama. I adore it so much. And I say this every time I bring up Project Glass, but I'm really hoping this will be my debut novel. I think it will be like the best option, especially since it's a standalone. It is a short novel, and it is probably one of my favorite things to write, period. Every time I think about this project and I think about the tone it's in and the things that we see, I love it so much. Not to say that I don't like sci-fi and that I don't like Project What or Project Star, but there's just something about this world that just like gets me so hype. Maybe it's just like the simplicity of it. Like, besides the creatures and like the virus in that element, everything is pretty much just Earth. Like, this could happen on Earth. The other two projects are much wider in scope, so maybe it is just the simplicity, just hitting you straight in the feels with character instead of, you know, adding in that world element. But that is Project Glass. And now we are into 4 new projects that I have come up with in the past few months. I lump them all together as my new era of projects because if you've been here for a while, you know I have basically been working on the first 3 projects I just talked about for like 2-3 years now. It's been a while since I've come up with a new story idea beyond a trilogy or a sequel or whatever. So 3 of these projects will most likely be standalones, but one of them will be a duology. Let's talk about that one first, even though I didn't come up with it first, but it's fine. That is Project Jade. Project Jade is a fantasy, a desert fantasy, love a desert fantasy, set in a world where magic is tied to the material that you sort of infuse it with. So there are potions that like you can put into fabrics, or you can put onto pieces of wood, or the most powerful one, the most potent one, is potions that you can dip stones into. Precious stones, like gems, emeralds, diamonds, quartz, jade, stuff like that. Project Jade, that's where that comes from. And my main character, my female main character, is the daughter of a woman that tried to assassinate the ruler of the sort of like city slash kingdom that they live in. He's called the Duke. He's like, that's his title. So I don't know what that's called. He's the ruler of this world. She ends up killing his wife, but she could not kill him. And she's been thrown in this prison. She gave birth in this prison, and my main character has grown up in this prison system. The prisons are actually like small mining towns, basically, because this city runs on the stones, the precious stones that like fill the earth below this city. So prisoners are sent to these towns to mine, to do labor. So my main character has grown up in this system. She has learned the ways of her mother, and when she is of age, when she's like 18, she's allowed to leave the prison system because she did nothing wrong. She was just born there. But when she leaves, she is full of all the information her mom has on being able to kill the Duke. So she has grown up as basically like a perfect assassin from birth. She has one goal. She has one goal leaving this place: to get to the city and kill the Duke. Project Jade comes in by the fact that her father, we don't see her father. I don't really know much about him. Maybe I should add that. But her father ends up making these 2 jade daggers, small like jade knives, that her mother uses, that her mother used to try and kill the Duke. Jade has a very specific potion for it that, when used with it, can make sure that whatever you have, be it like a vase or knives or like jewelry or something, always goes where you want it to, like no matter what. So obviously my main character's mother used this as a way to be able to just throw the knives and have them land exactly where she wants them to be. She tried to use this on the Duke. Didn't work. Weird, because it's worked on literally everyone else. So she, in prison, has been perfecting her potion recipe for these daggers. And by the time my main character leaves the prison town, it is perfected. It's perfect. It's going to hit every single time. Or so she thinks. My main character takes the daggers out, newly dipped in this potion, and she tries to attack the Duke. Does not hit him. Not even a scratch. They don't even try to go towards him. So my main character's like, okay, what the flip, guys? And she spends the rest of the book trying to figure out what he is using to protect himself. What kind of like shield he's put around himself, either physically or with a potion, and how she can deactivate that potion in order to actually get her knives to land on him, land in him. There is also a male main character. Of course, there's 2 main characters. He is the heir to the mining house in this city. The city is basically made up of a bunch of houses that hold power because they hold industry in the city. And he is the heir to the most powerful house because it is mining, and mining is like the sole thing that the city does. But he does not want to be the heir. He does not like leadership. He hates being in power. He doesn't want any of that. And he spends most of this book denying that power. He teams up with my female main character in order to keep people off his back when he inadvertently does become the heir of the mining house, a little sooner than he would have hoped. And he spends his time not just avoiding people and avoiding his responsibilities, but also tearing huge gaps in the relationships very carefully built up between all the houses, where by the end of this first book, the houses are like very close to an all-out war. And then by book 2, it's house war time. But that is Project Jade. I'm very excited to write this one. I feel like it might be the first one I end up writing of these 4, because the vibe that I have for this, like, I mean, desert fantasy, just first of all, so fun, but also the magic system. And then I also have the outline pretty much done for the 0 drafts. Pretty exciting, it's pretty fun. If you can get excited just from the outline of the book, you know you got something good. Now, the other one that I have actually outlined, that was the first I sort of came up with in this series of 4 projects, was Project Moonrat. Moonrat is a sci-fi. It's a sci-fi about asteroid mining and sort of revolves around the economics of that. Earth is very high tech now because we have such a high reserve of precious metals from the asteroids now, but the colonies out in the asteroids that are actually doing the work that makes Earth so like beautiful and high tech are very low quality. They're very poor. They're very dangerously built. They don't have a lot of safety checks because, frankly, the people that are benefiting from these people's work don't care. They don't care. Enter 2 brothers. They both grew up in the mining colonies out in the asteroid belt. They see firsthand as they're growing up the consequences of growing up in such a poor quality living situation in the middle of space, mind you. And as they grow up, they develop 2 very different ways of trying to work themselves out of this situation. The older brother stays in the mining system and becomes sort of like a con man, a scam artist. He makes his money fast and he makes his money in shady ways. The younger brother studies to become a member of the like government group on Earth. It is like half government, half religious, where the group doesn't really worship like a god or something, but they worship like progress. They worship the ascension of humanity into something bigger, something greater. He's not like crazy keen on that. Like, that's not why he wants to join. He wants to join because this is the sole governmental power on Earth. And he sees gaining control and being in control of everything as the one way to make sure he stays safe, and that knowing what's going on at the top is the one way to make sure he doesn't get hurt in the future. By the time we open the book, they're in their own respective careers. This guy's like a part of a team that steals asteroids from the government group, who has sort of a monopoly on asteroid mining, but his group ends up stealing asteroids from the government, let's call him that. His company, his like con company, ends up mining it and selling it at a slightly lower price than the government in order to make money. And there are other groups, there are other small groups like this that work against the monopoly of the government. The older brother sort of works for the biggest one in the colonies. The younger brother, he is a part of this government group now. He's like at a lower rank, but he's there. He's feeling good. He gets to see all the prosperity on Earth that he only heard rumors about in the colonies. Now, they are only brought together because more cargo than usual is seeming to disappear in both parties. The government is fully aware that they're being stolen from time to time by these con companies, but now they're losing a lot more cargo than they ever should. And they're worried. They're worried about that. They're like, hey, where's our stuff? They send the younger brother on a mission to try and figure that out. At the same time, the con company that the older brother works for is also losing a lot of material. And they're like, we can't afford this. Like, who's stealing from us? Like, no one steals from the big guys, you know? Like, they're gonna get dealt with if they think they can steal from us. So the older brother is also sent on a mission to try and find who's taking their stuff so the company can go teach them a lesson. Both brothers end up at the same place, realize they're working towards the same thing, ultimately decide to try and find who's stealing from both of them together. But that will be a standalone, I'm pretty sure. I have done the outline for this, so it is technically ready to be drafted, and by the end of the outline, it didn't seem like there was much that could happen beyond the end of one book. So, standalone, sci-fi, cool. These last two don't have outlines yet. I'm still working on the outlines, but they have brainstorming done. But Project Chosen is a fantasy. It's gonna be like small town fantasy. It's a very enclosed fantasy. We're not gonna see like characters going on these super big, you know, wide-spanning journeys. It's pretty much going to take place in one small town. Project Chosen is about 3 siblings. They are triplets. They were not supposed to be triplets. They were supposed to be one guy, one person. And the person that was going to be was supposed to be the chosen one in this world. Now, this world has been all but destroyed. And it hasn't been destroyed by humanity or the humans in this world. Well, not directly, like not like through war or something. What has happened is that the world has been sort of sucked of its life, I guess. That's a weird way of putting it. Due to the overhunting of natural spirits that exist in the world. They're like animals, and humanity has hunted them for their magical powers. Now, there's not a ton that exists anymore. They've pretty much been hunted to extinction, and because of that, and because they no longer have that magic within them, and they're no longer interacting with the environment anymore, life has sort of withered away in this world. And the only places that it hasn't totally destroyed the landscape and the people within it are the places in which communities have held on to those magical elements that they have hunted and they have harvested from these animals. So, in this world, the chosen one is supposed to be the person that brings back life to the rest of the world. Because the parts that are dead are not safe to travel through for a long period of time. Like, you can like step in and step out and you won't like immediately like turn to stone or something. You cannot exist in these dead zones of this world. And it's more like living zones where everything else is dead, because a majority of the landscape here is dead. But yes, the chosen one was supposed to be the person that brings back life to the rest of the landscape. But the woman, their mother, that was supposed to give birth to the chosen one ends up having triplets. And the town's like, oh, what do we do now? So the book is about trying to figure out which of these 3 people, if any of them, are going to be the savior. Which one of them is going to save the world? One of them, the oldest triplet, so, you know, oldest by like a few minutes, is already dead by the time we are in the book. He's already gone. Rest in peace, King. He has died trying to fulfill the prophecy, because everyone's convinced, or was convinced, that he was the chosen one as the oldest and as the one with the strongest magical ability. Everyone's like, oh, it has to be him. And he dies, so it can't be him, right? And we follow the remaining 2 siblings as they sort of approach trying to figure out which one of them is the chosen one in different ways. The middle brother, who I guess now is the oldest brother, but the middle brother follows the scholarly approach. He looks into theories that people in town have had about the chosen one and everything. And he tries to decipher what all these people have been trying to figure out in order to both save himself and his sister, his younger sister, who, the younger sister, goes full in on like community service in like the physical aspect of like saving the town from some big beast. Like, she's very much into that image of herself. So they're both working towards different things, where the brother's like, okay, we don't have to sacrifice both of us in order to figure out who is who. Like, if I'm the chosen one, like, I can figure out what I need to do and maybe I can survive. And if you're the chosen one, I can tell you what you need to do in order to survive this. While the younger sister is more like, I don't care which one of us is the chosen one. If I'm the chosen one, I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. But if my brother's the chosen one, I'm gonna be right at his side defending himself no matter what. So it's kind of fun. It's a fun little exploration of sort of religious fanaticism towards something greater and trying to use a catch-all to solve all your problems that you caused. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. And then finally, we have Project Luna. This is, once again, another standalone, I assume. It is a sci-fi. It's a cyberpunk sci-fi and sort of like an anti-hero story-ish, where in this cyberpunky city, a corporation has paid for an experiment to occur on a number of fetuses. There's not a set number of this, but 4 of these children survive, and when they are born, it is discovered that they have been born with superpowers. Exciting stuff, I know. 3 of these children are saved from the corporation by the hospital that they are born in, but one of them is not, and she ends up going to the corporation to basically become like law enforcement on another level, like, you know. But the thing is, because the hospital worked against this corporation that does basically rule and run this city, these 3 kids do not have the same rights as normal people typically do. And that comes in the form of not having their identities on them. This is still a big concept in my head, but think of sort of like your fingerprint or like Face ID or something. Instead of that just unlocking your phone or getting you into an apartment building or something, I don't know. This identity gets you into anything. You can pay for stuff with it, you can get into your house with it, you can drive a car with it, you can, anything and everything. You need your ID. As sort of defectors from this corporation that runs the distributing of these identities, these 3 kids were never able to confirm their identities and get that implant that would let them just exist like normal people. So they're kind of stuck in the hospital system. The hospital has raised them, they're teenagers now, and then they get the news that if they don't confirm their identity and get this like chip thing put in their body before they turn 18, they will be void as human beings. Like, based on the identity system, they will no longer exist. So these 3 kids with fun, cool superpowers have to get into the corporation, find out where they can find their identities, steal them, and get their implants before they cease to exist as humans in this city. One kid can control the dead. One girl has telekinesis. The other guy can teleport. Like, it's gonna be good stuff. It's gonna be good stuff. But anyways, those are my current working projects. I said 12, I think? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 12 projects, technically. If we don't count sequels and like series and stuff, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like separate projects. Those are not what I'm like currently writing all at the same time. They're sort of on rotation with one another. Right now I'm technically only working on Project What and Project Glass, even though I am sort of still picking away at the other 4 projects, trying to get like a decent outline for those. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, thanks for being here, thanks for hanging out. Now, if you're ever confused about what I'm talking about when I say Project Blank, maybe you have a little bit of a better idea of what's going on when I just like name drop out of nowhere. Please let me know what you guys are working on. Let me know if you guys have like fun names for your projects. I know a lot of people do like Project Blank. I've always done that because it's a nice way to name things, especially when you don't have a title, which I typically don't. But let me know what you're working on. Let me know what you call your projects. Let me know your favorite genre to write in. Like, most of my stuff here was sci-fi because I love sci-fi, but let me know anything and everything in the comments. Hope to see you in the next one. Peace.